Memories aside, which seems to be a futile argument, this ontological and epistemological discrepancy mentioned earlier, the godlike positioning in the universe and egocentrism these believers project, is a critical debunking factor for Mandela effect. The notion that one feels it used to be this way or that way, and insists that it is indicative of reality change, is nothing but pure narcissism, self-importance. It is a self-made delusion based on internal error mechanisms and external variables we saw earlier. It also extols and advances the asserter to a superposition, assuming they have secret, elusive knowledge. And it does not matter whether the assertions are collective or not. A large focal point exposed to a mass number of people, as we said, already explains a collective memory about something. Coming to terms with the ontological discrepancy puts an end to the delusion. But it is becoming the new religion, presenting the facts probably won't change a damn thing. This has been going on for ages, so I'd have to safely assume that this presentation for the most part won't change the perspective of the true, feel-it-in-the-heart believer. Let's look at the characteristic of this effect in its reordering of things. Probably the most ludicrous aspect of Mandela effect is the objectification of others. This is another part and giveaway that Mandela effect is more akin to a parlor trick than anything else. The objectified, that is, other human beings, are at the mercy of a reality shift, as the entire world is at the mercy of whimsical beliefs that put the believer at the center as the observer, dissolving the rest of the world as anything but actual or real. For example, with simple celebrity name errors throughout time, the Mandela effect believer will without hesitation call it evidence of reality shift. The claim is, if you ask the celebrity why their name has changed, they will say, it hasn't changed, it's always been this way. Or they will not inquire or show bewilderment at all on why there is confusion about their name. This implies that the Mandela effect believer has an account of both realities, and this other individual, objectified, is merely affected by the reality shift, lacking consciousness to be aware of such change. It's not a matter of knowledge of the effect either, because in the likelihood the objectified wholeheartedly deny it, and so long there is no history of surname change. The Mandela effect believer resolves the scenario by insisting reality has indeed shifted. The objectified, without say, since his or her account of reality seemingly doesn't matter, is part of the shifted. This is de facto truth for the Mandela believer, smugness of solipsism. Only you, as the believer, have this unique and special-rooted position, as demonstrated by your simultaneous account of two or more realities and the acknowledging of relics from both realities. Here we find the classic pomp and bluster of a believer. The world becomes their objectified plaything. They are the spectator on the outside, experiencing the so-called effect, while in truth, if we are to momentarily humor the effect, we realize it must, by its nature, proportionally shift everything as relevant events demand any reality. This is the overlooked implications of this absurd belief. The believer's memory and consciousness is miraculously intact. They get to experience change while they don't at the same time. A magical, transcendent, and metaphysical honor just for them. The outlandish claim exalts them to a paradox that they're comfortable with, as it expels the tenability of the belief itself. This is your claim, Mandela effect believer. This is what is asserted to be true by virtue of your awareness of the change whilst experiencing it. But instead, we actually observe these Mandela effect believers extol themselves in those who think alike. They will even go on to say that the non-believers are not even worth talking to about this, since the believers are more, quote, sentient and more, quote, aware. Again, we see the egocentric nature and nonsensical thought process of belief. Perhaps the Dunning-Kruger effect would be fitting here. After all, the claim of such a faulty logic as truth takes a kind of sense of superiority to do so, without shame or awareness of its impossibility. To me, these believers are chasing a thrill, more so than anything. There is exhilaration in believing in something, and it seems that any alternative, meaning explanations with facts, reason, and logic, just don't cut it anymore. So if they find a perspective is not in support of their relation, they deem it less aware or less sentient. It's akin to a drug addict's prejudice of the world, for when you are that burned out and have lost any sense of joy, nothing speaks to you with any meaning short of that drug. A belief creating a more fantastical surrogate for reality is a drug, and like with all drugs, reality is not enough. There is also one more objectified victim, this nitwitted notion claims. It's not only others the believer objectifies, but also themselves. Since part of this belief entails infinite parallel realities, with silly interpretations of quantum mechanics applied, the self is also considered infinite. That is, there are infinite copies and, quote, potentials, as they so obtusely love to say, of not only the universe but also of each and one of us. So I ask, when these unmindful individuals senselessly throw the pseudoscientific spewing around, what in the world happens in this quantum parallel reality shift with the other copies of ourselves? You see, the actual conscious individual in the present moment can only acknowledge these half-baked ideas because that is their only true reference point, themselves. They lack the epithetic quality to detach their self-importance from an idea to fully examine the idea without introducing paradox or total nonsense. The ego doesn't consider implication, only effects, whether real or not, based on how those effects affect it. If you claim other realities, they then proportionally mirror the selves inherent of the respective reality. If that's true, then what exactly is the reality shift? The reality shift is the total reality. There is no stationary staging area to shuffle in and out what is cherry-picked and claimed as reality shifted. So the question of where do the other selves go is not even a valid question. It is not about going anywhere, but then what of the other selves? What exactly happens to them? If they are a parallel self, they should always be in parallel. You can't experience the parallel reality of a parallel self if you are not that parallel self. A thing or person cannot be borrowed from another reality without causes and effects. That person or thing, as mentioned, defines reality as well as what is constituted by them. Reality would be aborted, wild aberration would banish it, let alone create dysfunction. The concept is a mental construct and nothing more, something boasted by the ego to exclaim a superior position in the universe, while simultaneously and unknowingly, funny enough, belittling itself as objectified. From the claimer's perspective, it seems normal, since the paradoxical effect doesn't actually affect them. From a broader perspective, the idea is inane. The nature of reality is that it contains all which it contains. Therefore, nothing contained in that reality can be part of another reality. It is a constitutional and gross violation of any component. Think about it coming from the other direction, the thought of yourself displaced by another reality. Therefore, another self shows the breach of the reality and what is implied by reality shift. Reality shift is all that is shifted. Nothing of that reality remains as a fixed point, immutable to the shift. Not even the awareness or acknowledgement of said reality shift is immutable. Its declaration is therefore untruth. To suggest that a part of reality experiences a parallel reality creates a junk remainder, which is a limbo necessarily created as a placeholder for the objectified and displaced. In short, more absurdity. So instead of actual things like a cereal box logo, think of the individual in the same vein. The logic always brings us back to the fact that we don't experience anything but our reality. That is what reality is, the one reality that within it contains change, perceptual error that assumes change when none has taken place. Essentially, It makes unnecessary the fictional narratives created to explain those things. The ontological discrepancies give this all away. They shatter the claimer's illusion. The Mandela effect is an impossibility.